Hi everyone, let's talk about the eggshell paradox. That language, walking on eggshells, has been around for a long time. It's been a book title for people who are navigating manipulative relationships. Walking on eggshells refers to the censorship, carefulness, having to choose every word having to choose every word oh so carefully, tentativeness, that you've been indoctrinated into to have to engage in a narcissistic relationship or any antagonistic, toxic, or manipulative relationship. You aren't yourself in these relationships. You are so careful. Stop and think about the primary narcissistic relationships you have had in your life, past and present. How did you walk on eggshells in these relationships? It looks different in every relationship. I'm going to volunteer myself here, right? When I go through them all the way back to childhood, the ways I walked on eggshells was I pretended to be interested in things they were interested in and to never criticize them or ever say I'm not interested in those things. I made sure that everything was neat and tidy, even if I shoved it under my bed. I didn't talk about myself. I never mentioned accomplishments or interesting people I met or things I did. I didn't criticize their bad decisions around money or logistics. I would never give any feedback about anything, even when that feedback would have actually protected them. I would write down what I was going to say and practice it in the mirror so I didn't get it wrong. Eggshells. It would be interesting if you dropped in the chat what your eggshell walking has looked like. Because I put myself out there. I didn't even scrape the surface. I mean, this is a big egg. So now in some cases, the eggshell walking becomes integrated into a trauma response. The reflexive fawning of seeking out safety by appeasing and capitulating and even praising or fluffing becomes your body trying to manage these various toxic and harmful relationships. But where it gets interesting is that narcissistic people hate when you walk on eggshells around them. But you have to walk on eggshells around them. I've said this a million times and I'm going to say it again. Narcissistic people are actually very socially perceptive. That's how they get supply. They have to be able to read the room, right? That's how they get to be successful. And on top of that, narcissistic people are very sensitive and mildly paranoid. So they actually personalize things that have nothing to do with them. And the combination of those things means that they notice everything. Believe it or not, even what you need. But since they lack empathy, they ignore it unless they do it to get something they need from you, right? Knowing ain't doing, folks. But when it comes to the eggshells, it speaks to the can't-win double-bind quality of these relationships. You walk on eggshells to avoid their rage and the constant conflict and gaslighting and criticism and BS. It's miserable. You walk on eggshells because they have you convinced that you are to blame for what is happening in the relationship. But when you walk on eggshells, let's face it, it kind of shows when we walk on eggshells, right? You can tell when someone's walking on eggshells. The inflection of our voice changes. And our eyes are open a little wider. And there's a sort of inauthentic enthusiasm in our voices. Or we feel gray rocky, or we don't say much. There's a whole eggshell look. There's no doubt about that. And because narcissistic people are perceptive, they can sense our eggshelliness. And they don't like that. Because when we walk on eggshells, let's face it, it's because we think they are out of control, crazy, weird, and they don't like being viewed as a difficult, weird person. Narcissistic people think of themselves as great, fun to be with, well put together, smart. That there's nothing wrong with them. So, if there is nothing wrong with them, you doing that, you acting in a way that implies that they need people around them to be oh so careful, they don't like what that implies. And they also lack the capacity to recognize that the eggshell walking is the only way people can be around them because, well, they're great, right? And they will say things like, don't treat me like I'm crazy. But you're thinking, what the hell's the alternative? Because if you were to treat them like you would treat a normal, healthy person around you, then they'd make your life miserable. This conundrum is what makes gray rocking and yellow rocking a little difficult. At some level, the narcissistic person actually wants the fight with you, right? They thrive with the fight. It allows them to feel powerful. It allows them to dismantle you. And that's what this was about all along, right? But you probably don't want the fight, right? When you get to this impasse, you recognize that either you have to hone your eggshell skills to be less visible, or radically accept the disaster that these relationships regularly are. I have worked with so many people in these situations, and a lot of it boils down to the narcissistic person's need to forever be a victim. So if people are actually catering to their every antagonistic, high-demand, entitled whim, then it kind of robs the narcissistic person of that victim narrative. But they need that narrative. The victimhood becomes their excuse for not achieving at the level to which they believe they should have achieved, right? This dynamic is particularly pronounced for vulnerable / covert narcissistic folks who walk around the world passive-aggressive, failure to launch, victimized all the time. But narcissistic people sort of clang about as victims. It's a gambit that often makes other people feel guilty and eggshell walking and exhausted and feeling sorry for them. And it fortifies the narcissistic person's narrative so they can then be angry at the world and mistreat the people in the world. But if people don't give them an ostensible reason to be a victim, because everyone's being oh so careful around them, then the narcissistic person kind of loses a big part of their identity. And then what? So my point is that these are very subtle dynamics that are even hard to detect and that a narcissistic person is sure as hell not in touch with. Some of this eggshelling ties back to the chronic malcontentedness of the narcissistic person. Listen, most people in the world are decent people. They really are. It may not feel like that when you're in a narcissistic relationship, but really most people are decent people. We enjoy bits of life. We want to be happy. But the narcissistic folks, for many of them, it's half empty all the time, unless they get all the praise that they want. Their malcontentedness and our drive to want to please them and cheer them up, so maybe they'll be content, can also drive all this eggshelling. But the negativism is who they are. The narcissistic person could be at the gates of paradise, and they're still going to say that the angels are singing too loud. So this dynamic, damned if you do and damned if you don't, combined with the fact that part of the eggshelling is out of our conscious control and sort of falls in as part of the larger fawn response, is one more reason that these relationships are like another full-time job and are why we feel so exhausted all the time. So again, folks, once you've been through a narcissistic relationship, every egg feels like an ostrich egg, and it feels like there are eggshells everywhere. Good luck.